look at this.
It's all right, book.
Hey, watch it, Frank. He's going to hit you with his Bible.
Oh. You're making a mistake.
Harrison Ford plays a big city cop who goes to live in an Amish community, but that doesn't make him behave very peacefully in the new movie Witness. I'm Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune.
There she is, ladies. Hanging rock.
On a lazy summer's day, a group of Australian schoolgirls go on an outing to an ancient geological outcropping, and 3 of them and their teacher disappear into thin air. That's the situation in Picnic at Hanging Rock, the 1975 film from early in the career of Peter Weir, who will go on to direct such films as Witness, The Dead Poets Society, and The Current Truman Show. This early film unmistakably established his talent as he evolved subtle, sinister undercurrents during an apparently happy day.
Never stopped before. Must be something magnetic.
Well after 2, I'd say. We'd better be careful. I promised Mrs. Appleyard I'd have you lot back at the college by 8.
Nature itself is one of the characters in the movie as the girls in their summer dresses penetrate into an outcropping more than 1 million years old and said to be dangerous and snake-infested. What happens to the 3 missing girls and their teacher? I don't think we'd be happier in knowing, because a rational explanation would destroy the mood of this film, which is about the way that inexplicable dangers and terrors can reach out and swat down the certainties of human life. It leaves you filled with its disturbing atmosphere. Peter Weir's re-edited version of Picnic at Hanging Rock, which loses 7 minutes from the original cut, is going to play around the country in the months to come, and it's worth looking for.
Well, Roger, I took some schoolgirls to see this movie, and here's what I told them before the picture. Girls, you're not going to know what happened in this picture, because we're never told. But I guarantee, after it's over, you will be thinking about this movie for a long, long time, and you will be able to recall the mood of it, the sense of being there. And it's really, it's using all the non-narrative powers of film.
Yes, it is.
It uses music beautifully without, you know, having a sense of being ominous without being obviously so. You know, handheld camera work to place us in the location. It's just wonderful. I mean, you know, the story is not the story. It's the mood is the story of being there, and he does a magnificent job. It's one of my favorite films simply because of that. I like films that, you know, don't tell a story.
Yeah, well, it has the whole specific, realistic detail of the investigation, the search, the repercussions, the scandal, and yet at the center is this enormous mystery that is never...
When you think of this picture, I don't think you think of the investigation. I think of being near the rock.
Right there exactly. On that rock, because it's like a summer day, you see the insects.
And then maybe a tree limb crossing in front of you or something.
Yeah, and then,
absolutely right.
This enormous mystery. Next we have a mysteriously beautiful and haunting film called Picnic at Hanging Rock. One sunny summer day nearly 70 years ago, or so an old story goes, a party of Australian schoolgirls went on a picnic to Hanging Rock, an ancient outcropping at the edge of the sea. Now, some of them never returned. And strangely enough, when I tell you that, I'm not revealing the ending. Here's a scene from early in the film, and watch how the director, Peter Weir, uses music and sunlight and easy laziness to establish a mood in which danger lurks just out of sight.
Yeah, you wouldn't have the time, I suppose, miss.
Miranda, your pretty little diamond watch.
Don't wear it anymore. Can't stand it ticking above my heart.
If it were mine, I'd wear it always, even in the bath. Would you, Mr. Hussey?
Stopped at 12. Never stopped before. Must be something magnetic.
Well after 2, I'd say. We'd better be careful. I promised Mrs. Appleyard I'd have you lot back at the college by 8.
Except for those people down there, we might be the only living creatures in the whole world.
Excuse me, Mademoiselle. Yes, Marianne. I should like to make a few measurements to face the rock if we have time, with Miranda and Irma.
Oh, please, mademoiselle. We'll be back long before tea.
Eh bien, allez.
May I come too, please?
So long as you don't complain.
I won't, I promise. And don't worry about us, mademoiselle. We shall only be gone a little while.
The clothes and manners there are really incongruous in that savage landscape, which is one of the ways that the movie makes its point. The girls wander off to explore Hanging Rock, and then the rest is silence. But there's one girl who eventually does reappear, and she doesn't remember what happened, or she says she doesn't. And after she recovers, she returns to the school into intense and hostile curiosity. It's as if they blame her for what happened.
Excuse me, Miss Lovely. Voilà, mes enfants. See who we have with us today.
Our dear Irma is with us but for a few hours. She is leaving soon to join her parents in Europe. Alors, mes enfants, for 10 minutes, you may talk as you choose. If you approve, Miss Lumley.
They're really attacking their own secret fears. They don't know what happened up on Hanging Rock, but they have some very disturbing suspicions. And Picnic at Hanging Rock obviously isn't a conventional thriller. There's no violence, there are no big scenes of the girls in danger, but the movie is uncanny in the way it suggests that the most unspeakable terrors lurk just around the next turn. The whole movie is filled with an unexplained supernatural menace. It's an unusual film. It's an odd film, and in its approach to the thriller, it's almost disturbingly original. I really got caught up in it, and I liked it.
What do you mean it's disturbingly original in its approach to the thriller?
Well, I think, well, a good question, I suppose. The thriller ordinarily has a denouement. Something happens at the end to explain everything.
Mm-hmm.
The most disturbing thing about this film is that this catastrophe takes place, the girls disappear, and nothing is explained. They just go into the void and they're gone.
And that's the very point where I disagree with you about this picture. I admire its skill. It is a beautiful film. It's an intriguing subject. I'm really wondering what happened. And yet we don't get that payoff, and that frustrated me. I felt for about an hour that we get little clues, something might happen, nothing's delivered.
That's what I love, the fact that you think something's going to happen and nothing does. These are people who are down in a landscape where they don't belong. They're kind of civilized, British immigrants, let's say, or the children of immigrants. They're in this savage, ancient landscape. They don't belong there. They disappear. If there were an explanation, they fell into the river or the sea and drowned, they were bitten to death by flies, anything like that would be disappointing.
Well,
the question is even better when it's not answered.
Yeah, but I don't think so. The answers that you give, I think, are rather trivial, and you probably aren't serious about them. They're certainly trivial compared to the rest of the film. We expect something significant. For me, it's like if you get a beautifully, expensively wrapped gift, and you're all intrigued by the paper, the first hour of the picture, let's say, you open it up, there's nothing there. That's frustrating.
I can't think of anything I would rather have inside that gift than the great silence and the great feeling of mystery that this film leaves. I don't want anything to be there. I like the way the film ends.
Okay, well, I will say this about the film. I think of all the 5 pictures that we have on the show, this is the best one.
Okay.
And now to change the subject completely, I don't know if you know this, but you happen to be sitting across the aisle from a guy who likes to go bowling.
That really is changing the subject. Okay, let's forget about North Avenue. Let's go to the outback of Australia and to an offbeat thriller named The Last Wave. It's about the tribal magic of the Aborigines and specifically their belief that ancient rituals can predict modern events and perhaps even cause them. The movie stars Richard Chamberlain as a tough lawyer who finds himself linked to the Aborigines through what the natives call dream time, a time that has nothing to do with clocks and calendars, but has everything to do with the past and future of the human soul because they believe dreams are as real life. Now here's a scene where Chamberlain meets with an Aborigine wise man and realizes for the first time that they share a deep and powerful connection.
You were outside my house yesterday. You frightened my wife. What do you want? Who are you?
Who are you?
What?
Who are you? 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 Are you a fish?
No.
Are you a snake? Are you a man? Who are you? 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 Who are you?
Scene has kind of an eerie power to it. The movie contrasts Chamberlain's ordinary everyday world, his friends, his family, and his job, with ancient secrets that seem ready to overwhelm him. And the way that other world, a magical Aborigine world, is introduced at the beginning makes the movie's first hour creepy and frightening. We begin to feel disquieted and easy, but then the magic and the plot dissolve into a much more conventional thriller formula, and Richard Chamberlain is so cold and so distant as a character that we don't really care what happens to him. So the cataclysmic ending isn't equal to the fears and fantasies we started out with.
That's exactly my feeling. The picture was creepy at the beginning and actually informational. I mean, we got to think about an alternative way of thinking about dreams and knowledge.
I was reminded of a much better picture from Australia called Walkabout, in which a young girl goes out into the outback and meets an Aborigine and their cultures mingle and so forth and so on. This one started out with that kind of fascination.
Yeah, and then what happens is that it becomes just a conventional horror story. The house gets destroyed and you wonder if Chamberlain's going to survive, but as you point out, you don't care. It's a flat character.
Yeah, we've been there before.
Yeah,
right.
they blew what could have been a good picture.
Our next film is Gallipoli. It comes from Australia, and it tells the story of the infamous World War I battle fought at Gallipoli in Turkey, a battle which began in patriotism and ended in bloodshed as pig-headed British military commanders sent hundreds of Australian troops to their death. The film portrays the Australia of 65 years ago as a pastoral, simple, and idealistic place, a place so quiet that young men couldn't wait to sign up for the action in Europe. In this scene, two young friends attempt to join the cavalry together. One is accepted, but the other one has problems.
Okay, Miss Hales, you're in. Report to that group over there.
Don, mount up. Foot in the stirrup, knee in his shoulder, and relax.
Thanks, mate.
Stirrup, knee in the shoulder.
Thank you. Come on ahead, pal. I'm your Uncle Frank. Tough but fair, so no bloody nonsense, eh?
Hurry up, Don, or the war will be over. Ha! Give it a cat. Ha! Wait, Don! Give him a rocket all right, Don. Thank you very much.
Both of those two young men and hundreds more are doomed at the Battle of Gallipoli when a British general orders a suicidal charge.
Colonel Robinson.
Barton, sir.
Barton, I don't care what your watches say. Mine says they should have gone 3 minutes ago, so send them.
Sir, do you know they're back in the trenches?
I know that, Barton, and I still say you must go.
Steady, lads. Not skip front, boys.
Yes, sir. We go ahead, as planned.
Come on, lads. Unload your rifles. Nothing at the spout. We're going in with the bayonet. No bullets. Unload. Nothing at the spout. We're going in with the bayonet. Steady, lads. Wait for it.
Gallipoli is an angry film that ends in that tragic massacre. The troops are brave and strong and determined, sure they are, but what difference does that make to a machine gun? This movie is about the moment in military history when individual courage was made irrelevant by technology. It was about the birth of modern warfare. Well, this is a good film. It's well photographed, but I do have one reservation about it. Its message is that war is hell and generals are stupid, and to most moviegoers, that's not going to come as a blindly original insight. Still, I do recommend the film.
And I don't, but I'm pretty close to you because that's exactly my reservation. In fact, the film, I think, is so predictable throughout. As nicely made as it is, and it's good looking, and no one likes to see and can't help but be affected by seeing the people mowed down by a machine gun. This is a very safe, predictable film, and it surprises me because it was made by Peter Weir, an Australian filmmaker who has taken a lot of chances with his previous films, Picnic at Hanging Rock, Last Wave. This film, I don't know why. Maybe he just wanted to make a safe film for the audience. Not a single surprise in the picture.
You're right. I think this film must be very popular in Australia because it's basically a chapter in Australian history told straight. This is what happened. A lot of Australians were killed. It's tragic. It's too bad. And that's the end of the film. It doesn't have that filmmaker's additional attitude that you might, and yet I'm sounding too negative. I like the film even so don't let me sound that negative.
Number 6, The Year of Living Dangerously, following an Australian journalist covering the Indonesian 1965 revolution.
Third, The Year of Living Dangerously, starring Mel Gibson, Sigourney Weaver, and Linda Hunt.
Next at the movies, Harrison Ford fears for his life in the world of friendly persuasion.
So he wasn't a Russ. He was a big guy, like me?
Big guy. And exciting and scary and romantic, and it never puts one foot wrong. I really liked it. The movie begins in the Amish country of Pennsylvania when a young widow and her little boy set off on a train journey. And in the train station of Philadelphia, the little boy witnesses a murder, and Harrison Ford plays the police detective who gets assigned to cover the case. He shows the kid some mugshots, hoping he can identify the killer, but the answer to the case turns out to be a lot closer to home. Okay. That's right. Okay. Every time I feel home, and thank you for going. Yeah. All right. Know her? Here's a file. It turns out that Ford's fellow cops may be the killers. Ford realizes that he is in danger, and so is the kid, and so is the little boy's mother. So they all go back to the Amish settlement in Pennsylvania and try to hide out while Ford works on the case.
What are you doing? Come here. Come here, Samuel. Sit down. This is a loaded gun. This is very, very dangerous. Never, ever touch a loaded gun. Now I'm taking the bullets out. Now it's safe. Okay?
Okay, Mr. Book.
Look, you call me John. I just don't want you to get hurt. I don't mean to yell at you. I just don't want you to get hurt. Look, it's all right for you to look at it now. It's unloaded. It's safe. You want to handle it. You can handle it while I'm here. But that's not right.
Samuel, wait for me downstairs. John Book, while you were in this house, I insist that you respect our ways.
Right. Here, take it.
The boy's mother there was played by Kelly McGillis, and at the center of this film is an extraordinary love story between that simple Amish woman and the cynical big city cop who's come to live on her farm. Witness is really two stories in one. It starts out as a murder mystery, and it works very well as a murder mystery, but then it also turns into a touching human story about the Amish and their ways and customs and the feelings that this man and this woman developed for each other. Harrison Ford has never given a better performance in a movie, and Kelly McGillis is wonderful. She's warm and direct as the mother there. Witness is a great movie. And it was directed, by the way, by Peter Weir, the same man who made Year of Living Dangerously. He's really on a roll, I think.
He sure is. I think it's a very enjoyable film, and you can tell in a good movie. I know we can tell it. I think the average person can tell it, too. When you are in a movie, and it's that scene right what we saw there before, when the kid is walking around at the police station headquarters, I'm going to compliment this Peter Weir a lot. Hitchcock wouldn't have directed it any better. It's thrilling. We feel the tension. We take out the natural sound. We go to music. We're captivated. And then this awful discovery. Everyone's in jeopardy. And now the director has us. And we will go anywhere. And he takes us to two fresh places. The Amish community, and then back to the city, but viewed through the Amish eyes. And it seems very violent. The city that we live in, the cities that we live in America, are incredibly violent, viewed through these peaceful eyes. A beautiful piece of filmmaking.
It's a wonderful film, and so often on this program we've talked about thrillers that think that the mechanism of the thriller is enough to give you a movie. We have enough gunshots and enough action and a chase and a big explosion at the end. That's a movie. This is a thriller that deals with the situation that they get into and then makes these into people who are involved in the situation. The relationship relationship between that man and woman, the way he fits into the community, the scene where they raise the barn, the scene where he gets to know some of the elders of the community. This is really a good movie.
These are the Australian directors. They do it every time. They have a great feeling for the land. They make the land a character and the people very important rather than action. American directors are much too much interested in action and don't know how to direct the land or people as well.
Well, that may be a little bit of a big attack on American directors, but I agree with
another
you. Peter Weir knows exactly what he's doing in this movie.
Number 6, Witness, with Harrison Ford as a cop who lives among the Amish community.
Can you see it, Charlie?
No, Dad.
Then you see it, Mother.
See what, Ollie?
Why, a beautiful house. Right in front of you. Venus in a house. This'll do for the kitchen. That could be the laundry and wash house. Tie the whole thing together with a platform and put the sleeping quarters up above. It's like the hub of a wheel, with the crops radiating out. I smell a bit of a swamp back there. We'll have to drain that.
Harrison Ford plays an American inventor who is sour on his country, and so he takes his wife and children to a primitive island in the Mosquito Coast. It's Harrison Ford's first film since his big hit Witness.
The Mosquito Coast is the movie that tells the story of one man's vision and how that vision ultimately turns destructive for himself and his family. Harrison Ford's character seems ordinary enough at the beginning of the movie when he's a Harvard dropout who thinks there's a lot wrong with America and he wants to get closer to the land. But then his obsession grows and grows, and eventually he moves his whole family lock, stock, and barrel to a third-world jungle where he thinks they can become totally self-supporting because he thinks there's going to be a World War III. But after their little village is destroyed, a madness grows within him, and in this scene he drags his family along despite the fact that they're all developing some very real fears and doubts.
We could take that Pipanto up the coast to Mosquitia.
We could walk down the beach to Panama.
Or we could walk up the beach to Cape Cod.
Yes! Let's go to Cape Cod! We can go.
No! No! We cannot go back.
Why?
Because it's not there anymore. America's not there anymore.
A little later, a hurricane pushes the whole family upstream, and after they think Harrison Ford is drowned, they try to figure out what they're going to do next.
Dad!
Where are you, Dad?
I can't stand this!
We'll be all right. We'll be all right. You'll be all right.
Go downstream and find Mr. Hattie.
Mom, Jerry's right. Let's go. Turn around.
Wait, let's get out of here!
Traitors.
That's Helen Mirren as the wife and mother that everybody calls her mother, and one of the movie's mysteries is how she remains so unshakable in the face of her husband's manic behavior. I kept waiting for her to be more concerned about her children. The Mosquito Coast is a very hard movie to like. I could appreciate the good acting here, and I could admire the way that Harrison Ford allowed his character's insanity to take over, and I was also impressed by the way the director, Peter Weir, used the forces of nature as a mystic counterpoint to the big plans of this strange man. But I was unable to go along with the movie's vision because it was so clear that this man was not a visionary, not a mystic, not a saint, but just simply nuttier than a fruitcake. Somebody should have blown the whistle on him. I suppose the movie is supposed to be a rite of passage in which the family's oldest son learns to be a man, but the son is not made important enough throughout the movie to make that work, and the hero's bizarre behavior kept us outside looking in.
And I found myself inside with him because in the beginning I didn't think he was nuttier than a fruitcake, and I think that's a little rough on this character. Here is a guy who seriously thinks there are problems in the land, and he says them in a very bold way, that there's lawlessness and all this, things that a lot of people feel, and he wants to do something about it. His children worship him. He's an inventor. His wife, why does she go along? She adores him. They adore this guy. And I think that the movie made me wonder what was going to happen. I thought he's making some sense. Yes, he's taking it to the extreme, but it reminded me of that 60s kind of notion of making a better world, and so I followed him up until a point in which he goes too far, and then logically there's
Gene,
a
the
switch.
problem is you're talking about the first 15 or 20 minutes of this
Oh,
movie.
no, I was going with it for an hour.
He's dragging that family around in the jungle. He's putting them on a beach where everybody says the tide is going to come in, it's going to wash you all away, you won't even listen to them. He's clearly mad. And because he's mad, we no longer can take seriously anything that he's saying about this society, his family, or his plans.
But Roger,
he goes right over the edge.
He goes right over the edge. But when you're talking about on that island, you're talking about, probably an hour and a half into the movie, not 15 minutes into the movie. This movie is quite compelling in showing that descent into madness out of good intentions.
Your standards for rational behavior are more flexible than mine. But apart from that, how about the movie itself? Could you tell me what it was about?
Yes.
No, it's very hard to say what this movie is about.
The movie is about how noble wishes and noble desires can get misled.
How about it's about how somebody goes nuts and his family has to be dragged along while he fulfills some.
If you don't like the movie, then if you don't like the movie, that's what you think it's about.
Did you think it was entertaining? Did it move fast for you?
I enjoyed it, and I thought the acting was great, and I thought again the use of nature, as you said, by the director. All the things that you liked about the movie, I liked too.
Okay, well that's great. So
I would say see Mosquito Coast.
I would say if this bad, see Mosquito Coast too. I'd have to say that it's interesting if flawed. That's it for this week.
Thumbs down to that one.
I'm giving thumbs down to it. Yes, you want to talk some more about it?
Thumbs up to Rated X. That's what confuses
You don't understand. You don't understand that these things exist in a continuum where one fails at a different level than the other succeeds. I'll explain it to you after the show is over. That's it for this week.
And the rest of the audience,
Next time we'll be back with reviews of 4 new movies. Ford is on a lot of magazine covers right now because of his starring role in Presumed Innocent, and we thought we'd devote a home video segment to some earlier stages in his career, because no actor in history has been in films that made more money than the complete works of Harrison Ford. His credits include the Star Wars and the Indiana Jones movies, 6 pretty good grossers to put on your resume. And yet there's something so down-to-earth and matter-of-fact about Ford that somehow he doesn't have as high a profile as many actors whose movies have made a lot less money. On this home video segment, we want to look at a couple of movies from Harrison Ford's career that may have slipped your mind, even though they got a lot of attention at the time. My choice of the best of Ford's non-blockbuster works is Witness, a 1985 film that had Ford as a big city policeman who gets involved in a murder case and then becomes a target himself.
Oh my God, why didn't you get to a hospital?
No, doctor. Gunshot wound. They have to make a report. And if they make a report, they'll find me. And if they find me, they find the boy.
Witness was billed as a murder thriller, but it could also have been billed as a love story, and director Peter Weir also made it into a fascinating look at life in a modern-day Amish settlement. It's a wonderful movie.
I think what Ford's contribution is, and it's not the kind of thing that gets a lot of notice or praise, is you follow, he's enough of an everyman that you follow the story through him. He looks, you want to look where he's looking. I mean, it's that elemental kind of yeoman work that's the backbone of a lot of commercial filmmaking, and he seems like he's a perfect guy for it. I'm going to pick a picture that it grossed far, far less. One little scene Harrison Ford performance that I'm particularly fond of was in the movie The Mosquito Coast from 1986, based on the Paul Theroux novel about an American inventor turned off by the crassness of today's society. Fed up, he takes his family to the jungle of Central America to set up an alternative, more natural lifestyle.
When America's devastated, laid to waste by nuclear holocaust, these are the skills that are going to save them.
At first, he's simply righteous. Later, he's revealed as mad.
I'm a changed man, Mother. No more chemicals or poisons. If what you want isn't washed up on the beach, you probably don't need it.
This is anything but a glamorous role for Harrison Ford. He dares to play an unlikable character, rare for a big star. He also is completely credible as an intellectual. Again, something that a lot of action heroes would have difficulty playing. I think that's because Harrison Ford just happened to hit it big in adventure movies, but at the core, he's simply a fine, minimalist actor.
He is a fine actor. He's such a fine actor that he's able to bring credibility even to the Indiana Jones movies, which can certainly use it and which benefit from it. Right. I didn't like Mosquito Coast, and I'll tell you why. I think he gave a great performance in the movie, so great that he was completely effective as one of the most unlikable, boring, arrogant, offensive people I've ever seen on film, and eventually, after the period of 2 hours, it was just too much for me to watch what he was putting his family through, the way he drags this wife and these kids up the river into this place at the end of the world and forces them to go along with his madness is effective, and yet at the same time, it's certainly not entertaining.
Well, you're using entertaining in the most base sense. I think that he obviously did his job
fabulously well, and that the picture did. A compulsive negative character can be great.
Okay,
and
I agree. I did it in a very base sense. Do you think anybody would enjoy seeing this movie on home video?
Yes, because I did.
Coming up next, Robin Williams is an inspirational English teacher in the Dead Poets Society.
How can you describe poetry like American Bandstand? I like Byron, I give him a 42, but I can't dance to it.
The movie is named Dead Poets Society, and it stars Robin Williams in a role that is not exactly blindingly original as an inspirational English teacher who urges his students to be individuals and have the courage to express themselves. Williams teaches in an exclusive Vermont prep school where he upsets years of tradition by ordering his students to tear out a school book chapter that he disagrees with.
Go on, rip it out. Thank you, Mr. Dalton. Gentlemen, tell you what, not just tear out that page, tear out the entire introduction. I want it gone. History. Leave nothing of it.
And he takes a very direct approach when he urges them to see things from a new perspective.
See, the world looks very different from up here. You don't believe me? Come see for yourselves. Come on. Come on. Just when you think you know something, you have to look at it in another way. Even though it may seem silly or wrong, you must try. Now, when you read, don't just consider what the author thinks. Consider what you think. Boys, you must strive to find your own voice.
Williams gives a generally good performance, but I could have done without this scene, which comes uncomfortably close to the comedian's nightclub persona.
Now, many of you have seen Shakespeare
Done very much like this. Oh, Titus, bring your friend hither.
But if any of you have seen Mr. Marlon Brando...
No, but Shakespeare can be different. France, Romans, countrymen. Let me rest.
You can also imagine maybe John Wayne as Macbeth going, well, is this a dagger I see before me?
And the problem is it suddenly looks like Robin Williams there instead of like Mr. Keating, the English teacher from 1959. Dead Poets Society is one more recycled version of the ancient movie formula about the war between rebellious young people and hidebound authoritarian adults and the one good teacher who's on their side. There's nothing in this movie that hasn't been done before, and great large sections of it seem to have been inspired by the classic American novel A Separate Peace by John Knowles, which was also made into a movie. As for the brilliant but eccentric teacher played by Robin Williams, he seems to have modeled himself after all of those other great movie teachers, from Mr. Chips to Miss Jean Brodie to Professor Kingsfield. We know that free spirits always get shot down on these movies, and so even the so-called surprises are predictable. The movie has a scene of tragedy that's supposed to be moving, but I didn't see it as a spontaneous act of despair. It seemed more like a requirement of the plot. And when the beloved English professor gets in trouble, somehow I just knew that his students were going to stand on their desks and protest just like he told them to. This is a movie about a man who says, dare to be different, and I wish the movie had taken the same dare.
I liked it more than you did. I had a problem with what I considered the same thing, this formula ending and the tragedy that's going to resolve as a kid is caught in the tug-of-war between the liberating teacher and the restrictive parent. I think that when that happens, and I was with the picture up until that point in its spirit, even as familiar as the material may be, it did move me, and it did, I guess I enjoy seeing kids being inspired, and I bought the performances. I bought actually the performances of the kids much more than I bought the performance of Robin Williams. And when he wasn't on the screen, I didn't really miss him that much. Yeah. I thought that they had a good community there, and I enjoyed watching that. Then the formula of the ending, the way it has to be with one kid suffering for being liberated, that it was just too formula for me. Well, I like the picture, and I'd recommend
you would recommend it.
Yes.
I won't recommend it, and the reason I won't is that they didn't really try to do anything different here. I agree with you, the kids give pretty good performances. Yeah. But at the beginning, I thought, gee, they're going to try to do this differently. They're going to leave out all of the big telegraphed characters and, you know, where they walk onto the screen and you know what their whole fate is going to be. I thought they were going to try to do that, and then they didn't. They just really did just take it right out of the textbook in terms of how these movies are always made, and I guess always will be made.
Well, you know, you put it in some pretty good company with some of these other teachers that you talked about. I think this is a small little film that I think we're seeing, but not for the formula way it ends.
Are you married, George?
Not usually.
Whatever do you mean?
Well, normally.
You're getting divorced.
Yes, definitely.
Gerard Depardieu marries Andie MacDowell in order to gain American citizenship in Green Card.
Green Card, and this is an entertaining version of that reliable old Hollywood story about the man and woman who get married for completely pragmatic, totally non-romantic reasons, and then, of course, they end up falling in love anyway. The movie features the American debut of Gerard Depardieu, who was the top movie star in France, and it plays a Frenchman in New York who wants to get married so he can obtain his immigration papers. And McDowell plays the American woman who marries him because she needs a husband to qualify for an apartment she wants. Here they're memorizing the basic facts about each other.
Weight, 140 pounds.
No.
Huh?
No, 125. Yeah.
Eyes?
Brown.
Brown, yeah.
Of course, when a woman supposedly isn't married, but she really is, how does she explain the strange man in her life to one of her old friends?
When am I going to see your new apartment?
Hi.
Hi. You're together? Sort of.
This is a funny scene. They're using a Polaroid camera to fake an album full of photos allegedly showing the many happy times they've shared together.
Okay, I need the blue sky. Okay.
And, of course, the inevitable moment comes when the Immigration Service starts searching for the real truth. Green Card is a lightweight, charming movie that depends for most of its appeal on the lighthearted chemistry between Depardieu and McDowell and on the screenplay's sure-footed tour of all the familiar obligatory scenes we always expect in a movie like this. The formality at first, the flaw, the problem of the other man, the fight, the breakup, the makeup, the romance, the danger of being broken up. This is dependable material, especially in the hands of director Peter Weir, who shows a nice light touch. And I like the ending of the movie, too, because even if this is a romantic comedy, it's true to a certain bittersweet reality, and that makes it even better.
Well, I suppose the ending is something to be thankful for, but that's about all that I enjoyed in this picture. I wish that in a situation like this, which deals with fairly practical matters like the green card and immigration and all that, why not anchor these people in a little reality, too, instead of, I know it's going to have these standard plot elements, but why not just have the writing be a little smarter, a little tougher? Andy McDowell, his character is really a fluffy person, and I didn't believe their attraction between each other.
I think that what everybody involved in this movie was trying to make was a movie like It Happened One Night or one of the 30s or 40s romantic comedies. I don't think they were trying to make a serious, anchored movie about immigration policy.
Roger, and that isn't what I recommended. What I'm saying is, while you make a light romance, you can write it a little sharper, a little funnier, and I felt this was really light as a feather, and I never bought the two of them together. Our next film...
Jeff Bridges there is one of the survivors of a tragic airplane crash in Fearless, and afterwards, Fearless is just what he is, walking across a busy highway there because he's somehow convinced that nothing can kill him. And the movie explores that state of mind, suggesting that in a sense, he's still in shock after the terrible experience, and in another sense, the crash has set him free from his fears and given him a second start in life. His new orientation is almost impossible, however, for his wife to comprehend. Played by Isabella Rossellini, she doesn't understand this husband who has become a haunted stranger.
Every day you have to jump off a roof or stand in front of a train so you can lose your fear? Is that it? What about me? What about Jonah? You're like a crazy person.
I'm not
Black
crazy.
is white and... I love you. We have lived together for 16 years. They have been great.
Not always.
One person who does understand, played here by Rosie Perez, is another one of the survivors who lived through the crash.
My car's across the street. Let's go for a drive.
No, I can't. The doctor told me I can't go nowhere.
You'll be safe. You read the papers? Everybody with me lived.
Remember that Dustin Hoffman movie named Hero a year or two ago? Well, Fearless tells almost the same story, but in a more personal and thoughtful way. After a man becomes a media hero in a plane crash, how does he continue his normal life? Unlike the Hoffman character in Hero, the Bridges character in Fearless has actually survived the crash himself. He's confronted the possibility of his own death, and now in life he has to deal with that. The movie was directed by Peter Weir and written by Rafael Iglesias, and they deserve a lot of credit for exploring the mind of this man who thinks he's been given a pass by fate.
It's an interesting situation. If anybody has had a situation on a plane or something like that, or been involved in an accident, and I think a lot more people than we might think have gone through something like that. I had something similar happen to me like that. You do, it does set you free. The question is, how long does it set you free? Now, this movie makes it seem a lot longer than I think it does happen for the average person. I don't think there are that many people that make a complete left-hand turn as well this character does. At the same time, it is interesting to me, this phenomenon of, I think it's much more the second case, not that when he's crossing the street, in a way, there's a real approach avoidance. In one way, he wants to almost get nailed, Roger. Yeah. It's a strange phenomenon.
He doesn't deserve to live.
Yeah.
Everybody else died, so why is he alive?
He needs, you know what happened? I think what happens here is the cataclysm, or the approaching cataclysm, sets an agenda for his life. It raises the stakes on his life, so he needs to create another one to feel something.
And his wife simply can't identify with that. And what's interesting in the film is that relationship between Bridges and the Rosie Perez character, which kind of tends toward a love story, but really isn't a romance. It's more like they have survivor syndrome. They've been through something that they can't talk about with anyone else,
it's like,
and they can share it.
It's like, you know, lives with guys that have,
yeah.
You know, it's a private life, an important life. Her character is interesting because it isn't written as a conventional love story. That's the way you would think the story would go.
I'll tell you, I like Rosie Perez in everything I see her in.
Hey, honey, look what I got at the checkout. Dishwasher safe.
That's amazing.
Jim Carrey lives in a world based on a big secret and a big lie in The Truman Show. I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times, and my colleague Gene Siskel is still on the road to recovery and will be joining me by telephone. Hello, Gene.
Hi, Raj. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune. And once again, I hope that our producers have selected photos of me that don't cause too much discomfort for our viewers.
Gene, I'm looking at your photo right now, and you are one handsome guy. This is magazine cover quality.
I'm afraid to know the name of the magazine.
Yeah, Field and Stream.
Okay.
Okay. Our first movie is The Truman Show, and in my newspaper review of this film...
Hey, Raj, those muskies are really biting here.
Okay. In my review of this film, I advise readers not to read any further if they didn't know the secret of the film. But you know, the secret is really already out, and so I was wasting my time and maybe my readers' time, since the movie ads all make a point of revealing it that Truman Burbank is the unwitting star of a 24-hour-a-day live broadcast that's been going on since the day he was born. Later, driving to work, Truman accidentally picks up some strange conversations on the car radio.
He's heading west on Stewart. Stand by all extras. Gloria, he'll be on you in about 90 seconds. Props, make sure the coffee's hot. Okay, he's making his turn onto Lancaster Square. Oh, my God! You knew it wouldn't matter. Something's wrong. Change frequencies.
Truman dreams of someday leaving the cocoon of Sea Haven and seeing the world, but his wife, played by Laura Linney, seems to be following another hidden agenda.
Why do you want to have a baby with me? You can't stand me.
That's not true. Why don't you let me fix you some of this new Mococo drink? All natural cocoa beans from the upper slopes of Mountain Nicaragua, no artificial sweeteners.
And we meet a man named Christoph, played by Ed Harris, who is the producer and mastermind of The Truman Show.
People forget it takes the population of an entire country to keep the show running.
Since the show is on 24 hours a day without commercial interruption, all those staggering revenues are generated by product placement.
That's true. Everything on the show is for sale, from the actor's wardrobe, food products, to the very homes they live in.
The Truman Show has been described as a comic and satirical look at the way the media invades our lives, about how celebrities live in fish bowls. But of course, Truman Burbank doesn't even know for the first 30 years of his life that he's in a fish bowl. So for him, the urge to leave Sea Haven is more of a quest of the human spirit. This is a subtle and wonderful movie, one of the year's best. And Jim Carrey might seem like an unlikely choice to play Truman, but as I was looking at the film, he seemed almost inevitable. Gene?
Well, Roger, I believe that this film may be nothing less than a watershed movie. With Warren Beatty's Bulworth and this film, finally, we are getting back to the way things used to be, Roger, the way things used to be that made us want to be film critics in the first place 30 years ago when we were in college, and that is films of ideas.
I know what you're saying. movies that people want to talk about over a cup of coffee after they've seen it, movies that make them think, movies that have implications, and that's indeed what The Truman Show does. And if it's a trend, gee, I hope you're right.
And Jim Carrey does a marvelous job. He has I saw this film 2 times. The second time I focused on him and what the requirements of his performance are. And what he's particularly good at, of course, is when the role requires him to turn the energy up in moments of either, extreme emotion or discovery. And then Carrey, of course, who is nothing if not energetic, is quite equal to that and keeps the film alive.
Number 6 on my list is a film from way back in June, an utterly original concept picture about a man named Truman Burbank, whose life, since birth, has been broadcast internationally, minute by minute, as a real-life soap opera called The Truman Show. Its popularity is a metaphor for the narcotic appeal of television, and in a radical bit of casting, Jim Carrey plays Truman, a complete innocent who doesn't realize that every aspect of his life, his town, his job, his friends, even his marriage, is nothing but entertainment for the masses.
What the hell are you talking about?
Who are you talking to?
The brilliance of the concept of The Truman Show is that we ourselves become hooked on the minutia of Truman's life, and thus our relationship to television is called into question. So credit writer Andrew Niccol and director Peter Weir for making a pointed and entertaining commentary on the media age.
That it is, Gene, and I liked it very, very much. It almost made my top 10 list. It's another one of those films that's in the runners-up. And Jim Carrey...
Did you this year have a long list? You know, frequently, to fill the top 10, I have about 8. This year, I had about 16.
No, I didn't give 4 stars to that many movies this year. I gave 4 stars to about 8 movies altogether. And Truman Show got 4 stars, but didn't make the list because I look at them afresh at the end of the year. And I don't know why it didn't, except once again the other 10 were more compelling to me. It's kind of a game anyway. But nevertheless, Jim Carrey, very interesting in this film in a dramatic role that also involves the fact that we like him and the fact that he has superb comic timing. I'm sure he'll be nominated for Best Actor.
Oh, I hope so, because he keeps himself in check. And, and you need sort of this tabula rasa for this film to work, and he does a good job.
Absolutely. Okay, next.
And for the prize!
Also opening this weekend is Master and Commander, which earned 2 big thumbs up on last week's show. Set in 1805, Peter Weir's majestic yet intimate epic is one of the most compelling dramas ever filmed on the high seas, with an Oscar-worthy performance from Russell Crowe as Captain Jack Aubrey. We believe men would die for him. We believe him as a brave and crafty commander, but we also see his flaws. Like Tom Hanks in the mid-1990s, Crowe just keeps turning out nomination-worthy work year after year.
You know, as you think back over his recent roles in The Insider and Gladiator and Beautiful Mind, there is nothing in common between those characters, and now here we have basically an action picture. But it's not an action picture. It's a picture about personality, about these 2 friends and the way they deal with this situation. And he just really has good taste in material.
He has good taste in material, and he has the range to pull it off.
Yes, he does, yeah.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Yeah,